All right, so we've all felt that instant spark, right? That
Yeah.
intense attraction that just kind of hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah, like you can't get enough of that person.
Exactly. And today, we're going deep on that kind of attraction.
We're talking really intense, almost overwhelming attraction right from the start.
And it's wild. We're actually looking at it from a kind of unexpected angle.
Yeah, this is a deep dive into the work of this psychologist.
He has like 25 years of experience.
Right, tons of experience. And get this, they actually suggest that this kind of intense attraction could be a warning sign.
Wait, a warning sign. That's not what I was expecting.
We know, right? It's a total mind shift. So basically, the psychologist suggests we should be a little cautious when we feel that kind of crazy strong attraction right away.
Okay, so why is that? Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, they talk about this concept of idealization.
Idealization.
Yeah, it's like when you meet someone and bam, they seem totally perfect.
Oh, I get it. You start picturing this whole future with them, even though you barely know them.
Exactly.
Like-
And that's where the trap can be.
So it's like, we're not really seeing the person for who they are, but more like projecting our own desires.
You got it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Sometimes this kind of intense attraction is linked to stuff we might not even realize, like unmet needs.
Unmet needs.
Yeah, like emotional needs. Especially if someone's had some rough experiences in the past.
Oh, you mean like if they've been hurt or let down before?
Exactly. Imagine someone's been in a relationship where they felt neglected or ignored. They might start looking for that missing connection in a new relationship.
But in a way that's too intense.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to fill a void, but they're putting way too much pressure on this new person to be their savior.
So it's not really a solid foundation.
Nope. It's like building a house on sand. It might look good at first, but it won't last.
And that reminds me of another point the psychologist made about this type of attraction almost being like an addiction.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one. You get this pull towards the person, almost like a craving. And no matter how much time you spend with them,
It's never enough.
right, it becomes this constant chase for that initial high.
Oh, wow. That can't get enough feeling. I've
Yeah.
totally been there.
And that's when things can get tricky, because the focus becomes all about consuming the other person.
Not actually building a real connection.
Right, it's not about a healthy, balanced relationship anymore.
Okay, so if falling head over heels immediately isn't always a good thing, then what should we be looking for? What does a good foundation actually look like?
That's the question, isn't it? And the psychologist actually gives some really practical advice. They suggest focusing on things like consistency, reliability.
And shared values.
Yes. Those are the qualities that build trust and security.
Okay, but those sound kind of boring compared to fireworks and intense chemistry.
I know they don't sound as exciting, but think of it like building a house. You wouldn't just slap on a fancy paint job and ignore the foundation, right?
Uh-huh. True. So we're talking about the structure of the relationship, not just the looks.
Exactly. Those core elements like consistency, shared values, they're the bedrock. They're what let a relationship actually grow in a healthy way.
And you know what? It makes me think about some of my past relationships. The ones that started with a bang, they usually fizzled out pretty fast.
That's really interesting.
But the ones that built gradually, those are the ones that lasted.
That makes so much sense. And it fits perfectly with what the psychologist is saying. When we get caught up in that initial rush, we might miss red flags.
Or those incompatibilities that'll become super obvious later on.
Exactly. It's like we're blinded by the spark and miss the warning signs.
So what about people who haven't gone through those tough situations, like trauma or neglect? Can intense attraction ever be a good thing for them?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember feeling a strong initial attraction doesn't automatically mean something's wrong.
Okay.
We can be drawn to someone for good reasons. The key is being mindful, especially if we start noticing that pattern of intense, all-consuming attraction repeating.
So it's all about self-awareness and understanding our own patterns.
Exactly. This isn't about saying attraction is bad. It's about using this knowledge to make better choices.
And to find relationships that actually work for us.
Right. And that leads to a really important point that the psychologist makes. It's about finding someone who fulfills both your sexual and emotional desires.
In a healthy way.
Yes, it's about feeling truly seen, understood, and cherished.
It goes way beyond just the initial spark.
Absolutely. And that's where those shared values come in again. When you have those in common, it creates this foundation of respect and trust.
That lets the relationship really flourish over time.
Exactly. It's not just about finding someone who checks all the boxes on a list.
It's about finding someone who aligns with who you are at your core.
You got it. It's about finding someone who complements you, challenges you and supports you becoming the best version of yourself.
Wow, this is seriously insightful. It's like we're learning the secret language of attraction.
And understanding what really makes for a relationship that lasts.
And this is just the beginning.
Right. This whole deep dive is about giving you the knowledge and tools to use in your own life.
It's definitely giving me a lot to think about. What's the one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to walk away with today?
Here's the big one. Intense, immediate sexual attraction. It's not always a reliable sign of a healthy and lasting relationship.
It can be a sign of deeper things going on.
Yes. And it's important to understand those things.
So it's not about judging ourselves or anyone else for feeling intensely attracted. It's about pausing, reflecting.
And asking, what's really going on here?
I like that. And that actually leads perfectly into a really thought-provoking question that the psychologist asks.
So they ask, imagine you could go back and give your younger self some relationship advice. What would you say, knowing what you know now?
Wow, that's a toughie.
Yeah,
It's like looking back at all the ups and downs and trying to distill it into some wisdom nuggets.
it is. And sometimes those not so great relationships, those are the ones we learn the most from.
You mean the ones that didn't work out the way we hoped?
Exactly. Each relationship, whether it's short or long, teaches us something about ourselves.
Our needs, our patterns, the whole shebang.
Right. And if we can look back at those experiences not as failures, but as learning opportunities.
Then we can use them to build stronger connections in the future.
Exactly. Think about it. Have you ever found yourself attracted to the same type of person over and over?
Oh yeah, definitely. Even if those relationships weren't that healthy.
It's like, why do I keep falling for this?
Right.
And sometimes those patterns are connected to those deeper needs or issues we talked about earlier, like our subconscious is trying to tell us something.
So maybe we need to do a little inner work.
Yeah.
Figure out what's driving those patterns.
Exactly. And therapy can be a huge help for that. It gives you a safe space to explore those things.
That makes sense. But what about those of us who aren't in therapy? What could we do on our own to become more self-aware?
Well, one simple but powerful practice is journaling. After you meet someone you're attracted to, jot down your first impressions. What stands out to you? And then try to go deeper. Ask yourself, what needs or desires do I hope this person will fulfill?
It's like we're really examining our motivations.
Exactly. And over time, you might start to see some patterns. Maybe you're always drawn to people who are charming but flaky. Or maybe you tend to choose partners who need rescuing.
Whoa. It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves.
Recognizing those patterns is the first step to breaking free from them.
So it's not just about finding the right person, but becoming the right person for ourselves.
You got it. That self-awareness changes everything. It lets you approach dating with more intentionality.
Choosing partners who are truly compatible.
Right. It's not about shutting down attraction. It's about using this knowledge to make wiser choices.
I love that. So it's like we're upgrading our relationship GPS.
Exactly. And this isn't limited to romantic relationships either. This applies to friendships, family, even work relationships.
Wow. So it's really about understanding ourselves on a deeper level and how we connect with everyone in our lives.
Absolutely. And one of the most important things to learn is the difference between healthy and unhealthy attraction.
Oh, right. We were talking about that feeling of never getting enough.
That can be a big red flag. It's like you're constantly looking for external validation.
Trying to be completed by the other person.
Exactly. Healthy attraction is different. It's built on mutual respect, admiration.
And a genuine desire to see the other person thrive.
Yes. It's not about consuming the other person, but celebrating who they are.
So it's about finding someone who complements us, not completes us.
Beautifully said. And that allows both people to feel truly seen and valued.
This is all making so much sense. It's like we're getting this insider's view of the psychology of attraction.
And it changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on relationships now.
And the best part is there's always more to learn. This is just the beginning of exploring ourselves and how we connect with others.
It's definitely a journey.
Yeah.
So what are some key things to keep in mind as we move forward on this path of self-discovery?
Be curious and compassionate. Don't judge yourself for past choices or feel like you need all the answers right now.
It's about being open to learning and growing.
Exactly. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. We're always evolving. What matters is moving towards more self-awareness and deeper connections.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel so much more equipped to navigate the world of relationships now.
Knowledge is power, right? The more we understand ourselves, the better choices we can make.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, what's the most important message you want our listeners to take away from this episode?
That intense, immediate attraction isn't always a sign of a healthy, lasting relationship. It can be a sign of deeper things going on that are important to understand.
So we need to pause, reflect, and ask ourselves, what's really going on here?
You got it. And that leads us to one final thought-provoking question from the psychologist. They ask, imagine you could go back and give your younger self some advice about relationships. Knowing what you know now, what would you say?
Oh, wow. That is deep. It's like trying to sum up all those life lessons in one perfect sentence.
It's tough, right? But think about it. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from those relationships that didn't quite go as planned.
You mean the ones that maybe didn't work out the way we thought they would?
Yeah, exactly. Every relationship, even the short ones or the ones that end, teaches us something about ourselves.
About our needs, what we want in a partner, all that.
Exactly. And the more we can look back on those experiences, not with regret, but as learning opportunities.
The more we can grow from them.
Exactly. It's like those relationships, even the tough ones, they were actually stepping stones.
Leading us to where we are now.
I like that. And the more we can embrace that idea,
The better our chances of finding fulfilling relationships in the future.
it's all about growth, right?
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've really gone deep into the psychology of attraction.
And hopefully busted some myths along the way.
Definitely. And most importantly, we've gained some really practical tools for building stronger, more authentic connections.
It's been amazing exploring this with you. And at the end of the day, the most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. Taking care of that relationship, understanding yourself, that's the foundation for everything else.
Absolutely. To our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this journey of self-discovery.
Remember, the insights you've gained today, they can truly transform your relationships.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.